I'm more than happy to do this. As you said, I am on vacation, so I'm a little bit not in my realm. I'm in a hotel room with the kids and the hubby, but we're gonna make this work because at the time I said yes, my schedule actually changed afterwards, and we were supposed to be traveling, so we kind of shifted because we had a death in the family. But everything's fine. We're moving along, and I'm glad I could still keep my word in my agreement to do this for the group tonight. It's kind of hard to determine like which way to go, not knowing where everyone's at. So I'd like to see maybe a number of hand. I see there's about 20 people that are on. If we can do some sort of hand raising or chat responding, see how many people already own their home or are new to real estate, have ever thought about strategizing, building wealth through real estate. Maybe just a show of hands so that I'll know which way to go.
Right. Thank you, Wendy, for that. So if you are a homeowner already, meaning you already own your home, go ahead and type in a one in the chat, okay? Meaning I own a home. Right now, if you do not own a home yet, okay, emphasis on yet, okay, a property doesn't even have to be your home. You don't even have to live in it, okay? If you do not own a property yet, go ahead and type in a two, okay, and that will allow Wendy to gauge the room.
Okay.
It's pretty even, neck and neck.
You seen the numbers?
So we have just as much ones as two. So it's almost like neck and neck.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So basically, they'll be able to see different strategies. I think it's a great time for people that do not own a home. More than ever now, we're in an environment where it is critical. A lot of these programs can go away. I'd like to introduce myself just a little bit more. I am a mortgage loan officer, mostly community lending as well, and I've been in the business for about 20 years. I do specialize with first-time home buyers as well as repeat investors. A lot of my clients are coming for the second or third time and buying multiple properties. I've been in the industry from 2000 all the way to 2024. So I saw the stock market crash in 2008 and saw how it affected people's life. And it took until 2012 for things to really rebound. So I know there's a lot of uncertainties in the markets, and people are like, well, why would we invest right now when it's so much uncertainty? Well, guess what? It's the best time to invest because when people are running and fearful, you have to be extremely, your mindset as an investor has to be, this is a sale. So someone's dropping their home price by $50,000. Interest rates are coming down right now. There's no better time. If you position yourself for investing, if you own a home, you should be positioning yourself to either tap into your equity that you currently have in your home to try and see how you can leverage that home equity to buy a second property. If you have children that could take advantage of buying a kiddie condo, because there'll be huge sales on condominiums. If you can position your children to buy a kiddie condo, or for yourself, for your elderly parents to be able to buy a home and put them in, but it's really an investment property, you can do that. And if you're a first-time home buyer, I really, really urge you to take the opportunity more than ever. I cannot urge it enough. Jump in while you can, because the things that we've been so accustomed to for the past decades and hundreds of years may go out the window. Organizations such as HUD may no longer exist. CFPD, CFPB is a protection bureau for the mortgage industry and consumer finance, which is out the window. 80% of their staff is gone. 80% of HUD is gone. First time home buyer. What if all of a sudden we woke up tomorrow and the FHA program for first time home buyers, 3.5% down, is gone? And now you need 20% to buy your first home. What would that feel like? So then you'd realize that all those years of making excuses and not jumping in, all of a sudden, like, wow, I could have bought that home at 3.5%. Now there's no longer the ability. What if they change the guidelines? Because right now you can buy a home with 580, maybe even a 520 credit score with 3.5% down. And even if you're self-employed, you just have to position yourself, look at your taxes, figure out how to file properly. There's so many different programs out there. There are even programs out there that you don't even have to put your income in order to qualify to buy that property. So if you're 1099 and you have money, you could do 15 or 20% down. You may be able to buy an investment property without even putting down what you do for a living. So whether you have a job or not, if you have the money and decent credit, you can buy. So keep that in mind, write it down, because then when we dig deeper later on, then we'll be able to look at some of those strategies of how to buy a home, even if you don't have a job. So it's called a DSCR loan, debt service ratio loan. So that's one strategy. And think about it, if you're a first-time home buyer, I urge you, there are several down payment assistance programs all around the state of Florida. If you're in the state of Florida, you're in a good spot. Broward Housing, Miami has a ton of money. There are even monies with the PHCD. They will lend you up to $100,000 at 1% interest rate, and you can use that 100,000 to put down on a property, including a duplex. So think about that. If money was an option, you don't have it, money was a barrier. It's like, oh, I don't have the down payment. Well, they're lending you the down payment. So instead of going out and taking a loan to come up with the down payment at 15, 20% interest rate, the state of Florida and Miami specifically saying, hey, we'll lend you. And if you buy in specific areas, we'll even give you that loan, $100,000 at 1%. Now, maybe you don't want to buy in that area. However, if you're an investor and you're thinking about building wealth for long term, you should be considering some of these areas because it's an incentive to get in, and you may potentially be renting to Section 8 homeowners, Section 8 renters, and that's guaranteed money as well. So think about that. And like I said, if you don't want to do investing and you're like, oh, this isn't for me, I don't want to be a landlord. Because some people, I totally get it. Some people just, I do not want to be a landlord. I don't want to deal with other people. You can also have someone manage the property for you. So the money's coming to you directly, but someone else is managing the property, much like a landlord. So you could be completely removed, and all you're seeing is your bank account every month. The money's coming in your rent roll. So think about that. Maybe some questions so I can know which way to go, where you guys' heads are, where your mindset is today, and some of the other strategies that we can discuss would be if you're not really looking into real estate as a strategy for building wealth. The other way could be through other options, and we could discuss some of those options, mutual funds, stocks, as well as indexes, through life insurance. Any questions so far?
So Wendy, so let's do this. Let's do it interview style. I'll ask some of the questions to kind of facilitate the conversation, and then we'll open it up to everybody.
Okay.
For questions. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Sounds good. Okay, beautiful. So let's start with the mindset around, either being a first-time home buyer or, a lot of times I hear this where my clients will have a home and the home will have ample equity, but they're afraid of tapping into that equity. They're afraid of leveraging that equity in case something were to go wrong, and then now they're losing their home and all sorts of fears. So I'd love to hear your perspective, your perception, right? There it is. Your perspective on the mindset of a first-time home buyer and also the second-time home buyer.
So in terms of tapping into your home equity, if you own a house, you're probably sitting on a lot of money right now, a lot of equity. And to be realistic and I don't know which way the market's going. We may think it's going to lose some of its value, 15 to 20% of its value, but you don't really have that equity until you tap in. The only way to access your equity is to do a line of credit, a second a HE loan, which is a fixed rate loan as a second mortgage on the property, or you sell the property. Those are your three options in order to tap into that money. I would recommend to tap into it if you can, because that's the money. Because imagine, let's just say hypothetically, the market was going to adjust another 15, 20% down. downwards. Would you regret not having tapped into that money to do something else? And let's say, for instance, the stock market's going to crash. I'm not saying it is, but let's say if it were going to, and you had the ability to tap into your home equity, pull out some of those funds in order to be able to invest in the stock market. So for the homeowners, I want you to think about what that would look like if that's something you would consider. You don't have to do it, but that's a way to tap into your home equity to use your equity money to build wealth. And basically you're moving it from here and utilizing it in another area. And it's safe because the money's going to be growing anyway. And you can always, when it's growing, take it out and pay down your home equity. You can even use your earnings to make the monthly payments. So that's another way to make your money work for you if you own a home. If you don't own a house yet, you don't really have equity to pull out anywhere. So there's basically, you just have to get in. There is going to be a lot of opportunities. If you don't have the money, it's not an excuse. I have ability to get loans for 100% financing, basically no money out of your pocket. If you're renting, you're throwing money away. You're throwing money away, and it shouldn't be for 10, 15, 20 years. You should invest in something in yourself in order to build wealth, in order to grow your money and set a retirement account. At the very least, if you're renting, you can get into a property, whatever amount you're comfortable with, get into something because it's a tax deduction on your taxes. When you're renting, you're not able to deduct the rent. When you're renting, you don't get any money back. When you own a house, your equity is growing every year, and you're also able to write off your entire mortgage payment on your tax return. So if you're single, it reduces your tax liability tremendously. It can really change your bracket in terms of what you pay back in taxes.
Right. Yeah. So all my high income earners in the
Mhm.
room, right? Your taxes, a lot of my clients don't get tax returns. Okay. And that's a
Mhm.
luxury. I remember those days, right? And so when you enter a certain tax bracket, the main event is, how can I lower my taxes? What can I do to lower? It's not, hey, how can I get the biggest return? Because we left that world a while ago, right? And
Yeah.
so what Wendy is saying is, if you're renting right now, right, you're not getting any tax deductions. But if you were to own a home, not only is your home itself an asset that goes on your balance sheet, we talk about that in my one-on-one clients, right? It goes into your assets on your balance sheet, so that raises your net worth. Your home is also building equity, all right? So that's money that you can tap in to be able to get more investments, and your mortgage payment, it has the ability to possibly lower your taxes. And so these are three things, just three things that will change from going from renting to owning. So I wanted to reiterate that. I did have someone in the chat say, same question. Do you need to be a Broward County resident for the 100K down payment assistance? So I do have people from all over the world here, Wendy. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
I have people here in the States, right? And so
Mhm.
they want to know, are those things that you mentioned earlier, is that only available for Florida?
Yes. Yes. So if you're in a different state, you have to find out what's available in your state. You can always Google it and see county assistant, down payment assistant programs. Some of them are grants and some of them are loans. Either way, it opens the door for you to have some of that money in order to invest. The down payment for Broward County, Miami-Dade, Palm Beach, Hillsborough, the entire state of Florida is for Florida resident. I have had people move from New York and was able to tap into the Hometown Heroes down payment assistant program. And that program is up to $35,000. The lady last year was able to get some money because she was moving from New York to a Florida employer. Because the requirement is not that you actually physically live there at the time that you're buying the home to get the DPA. You have to work for a Florida corporation. So that if you're working for a Florida corporation and you're moving into the property, yeah, you can get it. So if you're from out of state and you're moving to Florida, you could potentially get that money as a down payment.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Thank you so much for that, Wendy. So I
Yeah.
took some notes. Can you tell us a little bit about HUD and CFPD. You talked a little bit about that briefly. I wanted to see if you can go a little bit deeper into what these mean and why they matter to us as investors and possible first-time home buyers.
So HUD matters to first-time home buyers because HUD is that organization that have been here for centuries that open doors. They advocate for minorities. They advocate for home ownership, for everyone, but specifically for the underserved community, and the Black community. So without HUD, and they've already reduced their capacity by 80%. So that agency has been reduced by 80%. Imagine that. HUD was instrumental when the 2008 crisis occurred, and a lot of people were losing their home all over the United States. HUD is not just a Florida corporation, it's actually organization. It's the entire state it's the entire state, it's the entire United States. HUD was instrumental in working with the lenders to help homeowners save their homes. So without HUD as a powerful source, I don't know what that's going to look like for the future of home ownership and mortgages. So HUD is extremely important, and programs like FHA, First Time Home Buyer, could really be affected in the future. You know, being able to buy your first home with 3.5% down, zero down, and 580 credit scores, that could be a thing of the past. So I really urge people, if homeownership was something you had on your list of something to do, don't wait. Don't wait. No matter what the interest rate is today, it doesn't matter. If you have the ability and you have a job today, you're working, you're alive, you're breathing, do it. Because tomorrow is not promised to any of us. And you may have a job that qualifies today. Like I've had people from the federal government literally knowing that their job is at risk and have reached out to me quickly to try and get into a property. They're like, let's do it quickly, fast, because why? They may be out of a job next week, but they still need a roof over their heads. So they're not saying, oh my God, I'm not going to buy because I can't afford it. I might not have a job. They're buying with the intention like, look, I may never be able to do this. I don't know when's the next time I'm going to be able to do it. So it's something to think about. If you have the ability to do it, do it. Now, CFPB is the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. And what that does, it protects you from all the creditors and it protects consumers, and we're all consumers. When you apply for a loan for a mortgage, there are guidelines. When you apply for a car, when you're trying to buy a vehicle, no matter what it is, you're a consumer. And this department, this organization, this federal government agency was protecting your rights and my right as a consumer. So there were certain guidelines in terms of discrimination. They had laws against, what can and cannot be done, cannot be discriminated against when it comes to mortgages based on your race, your nationality, your sex, and things like that. But again, they're trying to dismantle it completely, and it's going to affect everyone. And so, this is an organization that would fight for your rights as a homeowner. This is CFPB. You can file a complaint if you were discriminated against in housing. You won't be able to do that if that bureau is no longer existing. It also protected people with licenses like myself. I have to have a license in order to do your mortgage, in order to do your financing. And if that's eliminated, the deregulation, then you can have crooks in the industry come out of nowhere, decide that they're going to do your loan. They pull your credit. They can do whatever they did in 2008, where people were just getting licenses in literally 24 hours, fake licenses. And they were charging people 3 to 5 points on a mortgage because there was no regulation. So if we do away with CFPB, what's going to happen to our industry? What's going to happen to protect homeowners from people like that?
Another myth that I hear a lot when I speak to my clients who are looking to be first-time home buyers is either they are self-employed, 1099 or single member LLCs, right? Like myself, or they haven't been at their job for, because there's a myth out there that you need to be employed at the same job for the last 2 years. Can you touch a little bit about those myths and what the reality is?
Yep. So that's definitely a myth. It's not true. You don't have to be in the same job for 2 years. Now, you could be in sales one place, the next place, it's still sales. The only time, let's say you're a business owner, you do need 2 years tax return generally. But if you've been in business for 6 years, and your business was, consistently you've been filing a loss for the past 4 or 5 years, and this year happens to be your best year. So if you've been in business for 6 years and 2024 was your best year, you can actually use 1 year tax return to get into that mortgage. You don't need 2 years average. You can use 1 year. So of course, with that, you do need decent credit, but you have the ability of using 1 year tax return. So it is a myth. And if you're W-2 or salaried, you do not need to be in the same job for 2 years. You could have worked for AT&T for 1 year, and then you went to work for Verizon, or you went to work for General Electric, a totally different field. And you don't necessarily have to be in the same line of work. I mean, it's great. It shows consistency, but they will not deny your loan because you switch occupations.
Right. Okay. Beautiful. Any questions on first-time home buyer? Any other questions on first-time home buyer? Because I'm about to switch it up to the more advanced stuff. Okay. I think Carmel just wrote, does one qualify for first-time home buyer program if you want to buy an investment property, like a duplex, maybe?
If she doesn't own a home yet, she can buy that as her first property
Yes. So the
and
answer
still do first time home buyer. Yes.
is right. And what is it, up to 4 units?
To
Or-
4 units. Mhm.
So Carmel, you can even take it up a notch and get a fourplex, actually. Okay. Beautiful. Any other questions on first-time home buyer? My biggest curiosity is surrounded around the process of buying property, specifically land and home, where to begin. Like, do I start with my bank? How does that process really work? So it looks like she's looking for a breakdown of what it looks like to go from renting to being a homeowner. Are you able to go over that briefly?
So that requires like a one-on-one because everybody's situation is different. There's no two clients that are exactly the same. If you're a first-time home buyer, I have to review whether or not you're self-employed or if you're salaried. If you're looking for down payment assistance, I have to review household income. And then credit. So the first step is really talking to a lender, one-on-one. The first initial call, maybe 15 minutes to see what your situation is. The soft credits, the credit reports, soft credit. So there's no impact to your credit because if you're not really sure what you're doing, you don't really want to have your scores impacted for no reason. You do a soft check, you discuss your finances, what your current goals are, what your income, how much assets you may or may not have, and then determine whether or not this is a good time to purchase based on your specific scenario for a first-time home buyer. So some people may have the 3.5%, some may not. And if you're not eligible for a grant or a down payment assistance, I did mention we have something called FHA Access Zero. Please write it down. FHA Access Zero is a loan program for first-time home buyers that allows you to get in with zero down. So they're financing the entire purchase. If the property's 300, they will give you $300,000 as a mortgage, as long as your income is sufficient to carry that $300,000 mortgage. Now, if you don't have the closing costs, which could be anywhere from 3 to 4%, you can have the seller do a seller's contribution. And in this environment that we're in right now, that is very likely. Sellers are willing to do closing cost credit. So you could potentially get into a home with maybe just $600-700 or $1,000 because you would need to pay for an inspection, which I recommend. If you don't want an inspection, you don't have to, but I highly recommend an inspection and then the appraisal. So imagine in a world where you found a $350,000 or $400,000 house, or $250,000 or $150,000, whatever the amount is. You finance 100% of it. and the seller's paying your closing costs. I mean, it's actually cheaper than rent, because if you're going to go into a rental, it costs more.
Right, you need first, last, and security, and you need to pay your mover. You got to
Yeah.
furnish. It's all sorts of things when you're renting and moving
Mhm.
to the place. Yeah.
I think a lot of barriers for a lot of people that I've spoken to is credit. People feel trapped when they're having credit issues and they feel like it's the end. I recently spoke to a physician, believe it or not, that is a single mom, and she didn't think she was eligible to buy. Oh, my credit is messed up. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. This is a highly educated person who still lives paycheck to paycheck. They have six-figure income, but because they're a single mom, things are really tight. And she thought it was the end for her. She's paying about $4,500 a month in rent. Well, even though the credit was challenged, there was things to do, it is doable. I was able to overcome, give her a specific plan on what needs to be done to fix her credit. And within the next 3 to 6 months, she should be able to buy a home. She
Yeah.
just certainly has the job. She has the ability, and the down payment. She actually, even with a six-figure income, you can still qualify for down payment assistance.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. I think you just answered a question, but I did want to make a note. Whatever you're paying in rent, I would like to invite you, if you are not a homeowner yet, this is for my first time home buyers in the group. My second time home buyers, don't worry, we're getting to you. But my first time home buyers in the group, whatever you're paying in rent, just make that your budget for your mortgage. Okay? Because if you can afford your rent right now, you can absolutely afford a mortgage. And Wendy just literally broke down all the barriers that usually stop us from even going to speak to a mortgage loan officer, right? And so the first one's credit. Wendy just talked about it. And most mortgage loan officers and realtors will work with you on your credit, okay? The second is down payment, right? That's usually a barrier. I don't have $10,000. I don't have $20,000. I don't have $40,000, right? Wendy is showing you that whether you're in Florida or not, look up down payment assistance programs, grants. They even have the loan. You please. Okay. All right. Sorry, I got distracted, right? So all these things that usually, the job thing, right? Hey, I'm self-employed. Hey, I haven't been at my job for 2 years. Dismantled. So there is absolutely no reason why anyone on this call cannot at least have a conversation with a mortgage loan officer, right? Obviously, Wendy is here with us. Of course, we would love for you to have a conversation with Wendy. Hello, she's here with you, right? But it doesn't even have to be Wendy. And this is something that her and I both agree on, right? The goal is to become a homeowner. Speak to someone. Where am I? What are my options? Open your mind, right? Get out of your own way to see what is possible. And then you can decide, okay, well, you know what? I'm not ready for this yet, but let me go get this ready. I'm not ready for that yet, but let me go get this ready. You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Type in the 2 in the chat if you're picking up what I'm putting down. All right. So the next question, Wendy, I see is, does the down payment assistance, is it based on your income? I think you kind of, okay, beautiful. And you said that even if you make 6 figures, you can still qualify.
Right. So for instance, in Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach, you can make up to 175, 180,000 with a family of 4 or 5 and still qualify. And then some programs do not really have a household. Like for instance, the PHCD in Miami, they'll lend you the $100,000. And you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. I forgot to say that particular program. If anyone's in Miami, there's that money that they will lend you to buy in certain areas, and you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. So if you're a homeowner and you say, you know what, I want to buy a 4-unit in this area, they'll lend you the $100,000. $80,000, $100,000 at 1% interest rate, and that's a really good deal. It's a really good opportunity to get into an investment property.
And so let's say I live in, I don't know, I live in Mexico or something, and I have an address here in the States, or I live in Texas, or I live in South Carolina, and I want to purchase a second property, an investment property in Miami. Would I be able to apply for those types of programs?
No, so the monies are specifically for Miami residents. if they're buying in Miami for that money. It's designated for Miami. The only money that you could potentially get if you're outside of Florida would be the hometown hero, but then you have to work for a Florida organization, a Florida corporation.
Okay,
And
beautiful.
then I'm pretty sure there's money everywhere. You just have to find it. And then like for instance, right now I'm focused on the entire state of Florida. However, I can answer certain questions. I'm not supposed to be looking, I can't sell you a loan if I'm not licensed in your state, and each state has specific state laws. So that's why I would recommend, like I can't even pull a credit report if you're in another state other than Florida. I could do free credit reports, soft pulls for anyone with a Florida address living in Florida. But when it comes to out of state, you really should speak to a loan officer in your state because the closing costs are different. The guidelines are different. I heard New York had a 100% financing program for investors. And that it blew my mind, but I don't have the further details on it. But once I do, I can pass that information on. Imagine being an investor and being able to do 100% finance.
Whew, that's the dream right there. Using
Exactly.
OPP.
Yeah, 100% finance for new investors.
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, the answer to that question, everyone in the room, if you are not in Florida, because I got a nice mix in here. There are Florida people here as well, but if
Okay.
you're in Florida, what Wendy is saying, contact your mortgage loan officer, right? Someone that you trust. All right. I'm looking. We need to build a network all over the United States,
Hmm.
right? Okay. And ask them these questions. Now you know what to ask, right? You don't know what you don't know, but you came on this call and now you know something and now you know what to ask. Okay.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's keep going. Now let's get into the investing stuff. Okay. The first thing that you said that popped out to me was the kitty condo. Talk to us about kitty condos. Tell us more.
So the condo has been around for years, but it was never really utilized because there wasn't much talk about it. So what a kitty condo is, let's say for instance you have let's just give you an example. You living in New York, but you have your kid going to a university in Florida. Ding, 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 ding. You just found an opportunity to get into a condo in Florida with very little money down, primary resident for your child. And even if your child's not working, it's okay because you can pay that mortgage. You qualify for the mortgage for your child. So it is non-occupant, co-signer. The child is the primary resident in the state of Florida, and the parent can live in any other state, purchasing a kitty condo for that child. You can do it in your state, but you can also do it out of state. That's the advantage. So what a lot of parents were doing, let's say they lived in New York, kid was was going to be going to school in Florida. They would buy some condominiums and they like a 3-bedroom condominium, and then they rent out each unit. So not only did they get in with very little money, it was not considered an investment, so it didn't cost a lot. It was considered a kitty condo.
I hope you guys are picking up these gems over here. I don't know if y'all heard Wendy.
It's definitely a gem.
Yes. Okay. So instead of paying room and board for your children when they go to college, instead of going into debt, oh my God, I don't even want to tell you how much debt I have from room and board. Okay. $20,000 a year, $12,000 a year. What Wendy is saying is purchase a kitty condo for your child. All right. And let's just say that kitty condo has multiple units in it. I mean, this is college. They don't have problems with roommates. That's part of the
What
experience.
they do.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And so now you create income from this building. I'm sorry, I'm thinking.
Cash flow. Well, listen, you just said that correctly because let's just turn that mindset into the kitty condo is now a single family home with 4 bedrooms. Same concept. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a condo. It could be a duplex. It could be a single family. You can also have your parents take advantage of that scenario. Your parents are on a fixed income. They're not really working. They don't qualify for a mortgage, but you want to get a property in Florida. And now your parents can be the primary resident for that property. And you're co-signing for that property for them, but they don't have an income. It's okay. They don't have to have an income. They don't even have to have credit. We can put the parents on the loan as the primary, and the children who's working is paying for the property.
And so whose information do they use for the whole process? Are they using my
The
information?
person who's going to pay the loan, who's going to repay the loan.
Okay, got it.
So let's say, for instance, I'm able to get a property in New York. I'd like to buy a single family in New York, but I don't live there. I can't buy it as primary resident because I live and work in Florida. I'm able to buy a single family house in New York for my parents. And it's a primary resident, and I can do it with as little as 3.5% down because they're going to occupy as primary, and I'm going to be the payer paying the bank. So I qualify based on my income, but the actual person occupying is my parents. And the reason why would I put my parents as the occupant and I qualify with my income is because of the ability to put less money down. Now, if you have 20% down and you want to call it investment, you can. It's easy, it's easier to qualify, but it costs more in terms of your down payment and your interest rate. So the ability to use someone else, like your child or your parents, your grandparents, as the primary occupant allows you to put less money down and have a lower interest rate. Because whenever it's primary resident, it's the lowest cost. When it goes to second home, it goes to investment, the cost gets higher. Banks will charge you according to risk. And when it's an investment property, it's high risk. So the interest rate's higher, the down payment's higher, and the cost overall is higher.
Got it. Got it. So this could be a strategy around all those higher costs, those higher down.
Right.
Instead of getting just a regular second property, you can now get it under the kitty condo slash
Yeah.
condo, right?
Yeah, somebody said, could it be flipped? I just read that. Yeah, you can flip it because there's no prepayment penalty. There's no restriction on how long you hold it for. You want to buy it this year while your kid is in Florida or wherever they're at, Tampa University, Texas, California. And then, 6 months later, they're graduating or they're no longer there, or you no longer have the need for it. You sell it.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Or create that monthly cash flow for your child.
Right. Hold on to it if you want to and continue, renting it out.
Yeah. And that rent that you're collecting can also help you with college costs, right? Or if college is taken care of, that can go into your child's investments or, so many other things that you can do. Now, I did have a question. There was a question about buying a property, whether it's your first one, second one under a trust. Are you able to go over what that looks like to buy it under a trust versus under your name?
So I don't recommend, and most lenders won't do a loan in the name of a trust to start with. That's a little more complicated. You can buy it in the name of a business, right? If you're self-employed, you want to buy a home, you can buy it in an LLC. You can buy a home in your name, and then later on, you transfer it into a trust because there are paperwork to have a trust. Usually, you got to put it into the trust. So it's not you're buying it and like I'm creating the trust as I'm buying the property. You own a property and now you're transferring the property into a trust.
Right, exactly. And that goes for everyone, right? Any type of investment. Typically, you need to own the investment first and then put it under a trust. Because what is the trust? The trust is an umbrella of protection. We cannot have an umbrella of protection if there's no asset, right? And so first we have to acquire the asset.
Acquire the asset, yeah.
Right? You acquire the asset, whether it's through personal or through your business. And then you work with an estate planning attorney because no professional we do not touch stuff like that. Speak to your attorney, right? Because laws, laws, and we are
Right,
financial people. We know strategy,
right,
but we don't touch the laws, right? So
right. It's just complicated.
complicated, and the estate
Mhm.
planning attorney knows all the loopholes. You don't want us to give you advice on the law because we're not,
Right,
right? And so you want to speak to your estate planning attorney and tell them your plan. I plan to buy this home. This is my plan. This is why I need it in a trust, and so on and so forth. So now the attorney will tell you step one, step two, step three, and so on and so forth. Does that clear it up for everybody? As you know, I know that was Carmel's question, but I know that that can be for everyone pretty much.
Mhm.
Awesome, awesome. We got a lot of questions pouring in, right?
Well,
Can Kitty condo qualify for the first time home buyer? I think, yeah, go ahead if you want to answer.
yes,
Yes, yes. So essentially, that is the point, right? The point is the first time home buyer, you bought it, you're done. If you go into a second, it's going to be higher costs. It's going to be higher minimums.
down payment,
I keep saying minimums because I'm thinking investment
down payment.
payment, right? But
Mhm.
the whole strategy itself is to go around that to give you the same benefits of a
Mhm.
buyer. So yes, the answer is yes. It is a first time home buyer in a way. Okay, good. Can you have a kitty condo if your child lives in another county in Florida?
Yes.
Yes. I'm not sure. Was that the question?
So let's say mom lives in Broward County and the son lives in Hillsborough. That's two different counties. Yes.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. Okay, beautiful. Any other questions around second properties? Oh, someone said, is it possible to get equity on your home without refinancing?
Yes.
Mhm.
Through a HELOC or a HELOAN.
Can you explain the difference between the two, please?
A HELOC is a home equity line of credit. It's an adjustable rate mortgage. It's in second lien position. Generally, most lenders will go up to 80% of your home's value. Some may go higher. And a HELOAN is the same exact thing, but it's a fixed rate. It's a home equity loan, but it's fixed. And it's usually amortized for 30 years or 10 years or 20 years, where the HELOC is generally sometimes interest only
Mhm.
for the first 10 years of that loan. So they're a little different in terms of how you pay it and how much you can get out of it, but the difference mostly is one is adjustable and one is fixed.
Okay, beautiful. Can you go over a little bit about the section 8 as a investing strategy?
Hmm. In what sense?
Buying a, because I know with section 8, it's, I don't want to say guaranteed, right? Because there's no such thing, but it's really dependable, unlike, you know, a random person, you're hoping they pay rent on time, right? So what are some strategies you've seen investors do with buying homes and specifically looking to put them under section 8?
Oh yeah, that's happening a lot. Because they pay more. No matter what the neighborhood is, what the condition of the property is, Section 8 is going to pay more for that rental value. I've had investors buy properties and that's all they want, and they don't care what neighborhood the property's in. They want the Section 8 renters. And they buy the duplexes, the multi-units specifically to rent to Section 8.
Right, right. And also too, it's that it typically they have someone to come and look at the property, right, to make sure that the property is not being damaged and so on and so forth. And so you kind of get that in return versus a random renter who can pretty much do anything to your property and you have to fix it.
Exactly.
Okay, beautiful,
Yep.
beautiful. All right, so that's pretty much it. As far the only thing I have left on my questions is any myths that we didn't talk about that you have heard, maybe some of your clients, especially those who are in the investing side of things. Some of the myths that you've heard that you wanted to kind of dismantle when it comes to investing in real estate.
I think the real issue I see within the Black community is mindset. I could tell you that as a mortgage lender, I have a very high approval rating, and the people that may end up being denied are the people who deny themselves. So they come in with a mindset is, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'm gonna get denied, and they project that energy into the loan and they don't do anything towards an approval. So because they already came in with a negative mindset, with a denial mindset. And so they work towards a denial. They deny themselves. So that's one myth. And other than that, everything is doable. If you can't buy today, you can buy in 6 months, but you have to have a plan. And I think the worst transactions are people that just try to jump in stuff without really thinking it through. It's all about your steps have to be intentional and you must have a plan. And if you don't write it down, then you plan to fail. So you have to think about what you want to do. What are your strategies? Which one? There are different strategies to building wealth, and organizing your life. You got to do one strategy one at a time. And not everyone, like I said, has to do real estate investing. There may be different strategies to build wealth. But mindset is number one. Once you can have your mindset together and knowing, this is what I want to do, and you create that pathway, you create a plan, write it down, and then execute the plan one step at a time. And I think that's basically the biggest obstacle. Other than that, I've done some pretty crazy loans. The other day I told someone, yeah, with a 520, I can get you into a house. They're like, no way. Yeah. Well, if you got 10% and 520, you're full doc, you're working, sometimes things happen. And a 520 credit score doesn't necessarily mean it's really bad credit. It could be one thing that's holding you back. Not even a judgment. It could be you had a car that was repossessed. If it's 5, 6 years ago, we're not going to hold it against you. Those medical collections, it's not the end of the world. If they're under $2,000, we don't even count them. You know, um, Student loans. I've had somebody say, you know what, I don't think I can afford a home because I owe 150,000 in student loan. Don't worry about it. There are programs now that will allow us to use 0.5% of the balance of the student loan to help you qualify. There's just ways around everything. And my biggest obstacle is usually getting someone to trust and believe that it is doable. And once they trust the expert and the professional that's working with them, everything is doable and you can accomplish your dreams.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So I have a young lady here who says, can you touch on how to get rid of PMI? That's one thing that comes with the FHA loan.
Hey, that's another mindset problem right there. Because without FHA and that PMI, they probably wouldn't be able to get into their first home. So, for instance, people who bought a home 4 years ago, right? They got in with an FHA loan, 3.5% down, and there was PMI. What was the alternative? 5, 10, 15, 20% down that you didn't have at the time that you got into the FHA loan. So an FHA loan usually would be for someone who has credit challenged, income challenge, or down payment challenge. So if those three things exist, or one out of the three, you will most likely get an FHA loan. The PMI on an FHA loan is for the life of the loan. So in order to get out of the PMI, you have to refinance and get yourself into a conventional loan. So if you've had that FHA loan for 2 or 3 years, it's time to refinance it into a conventional mortgage with no PMI. And the PMI is generally anywhere from 100 to 200, 250 per month, depending on the loan balance. It's 0.5% of your loan amount divided by 12. So yes, you can get rid of it, but you would have to refinance. It doesn't fall off like a conventional loan. On a conventional loan, you can start off with PMI, and after 2 to 3 years, once you have 20% equity in the home, you can purchase a home with 3% down on conventional as well. And that's for people with, let's say, 680 or 700 credit score. So if you're someone with 700 credit score, you can get into a home with 3% down, conventional. Your MI will be very little, and after 2.5 years, it goes away. But not on an FHA loan.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Yes. All right, so we're gonna take I don't want to take up too much of Wendy's time. She's on vacation, guys. Okay, so if
I'm good. We're good. We're doing great.
you're good, okay.
So somebody just put, what are the trends? The trends is get ready, position yourself for home ownership. If you don't own a home, start strategizing. Call me if you're buying in Florida. Let's talk about what are some of the things you can do if you're eligible. You may not know that you're eligible for down payment assistance. Not everyone. So there's been a myth that everybody thinks if they're a first-time home buyer, they're entitled to money. That is just not true. First-time home buyer only means that you're buying a home for the first time. And therefore, they will allow you to do it with very little money down, like 3.5 or 3%. That's it. And you can be a first-time home buyer for the second time. So let's say you bought a house and then you sold it, and then you were renting for 3 years, or you were out of the country, or you were living with your parents, and you didn't own anything for 3 years. You were not on title. You then become a first-time home buyer again. So you can be a first-time home buyer more than once. And if you co-sign for someone and you figure, oh, I'm not a first-time home buyer because I co-signed. Nope. If you didn't live in that house with them, you still have the first-time home buyer capability to buy your own house with 3.5% down.
Ooh, I hope you guys are
Yeah.
writing down, okay? These gems here. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Greg asked, what qualifying questions do I need when selecting a loan officer? I know that you have your network of people, but let's say I believe Greg is in South Carolina. I know he would love to work with you, but he's in South Carolina. So if you
Yeah.
were to go and find a mortgage loan officer, what are some questions or some things that he needs to look
I think what sets loan officers apart is experience. I would tell you in my field, experience matters. So if you're talking to someone who just entered the industry, they probably don't know guidelines, and guidelines are key. They may not know the ins and out with credit, how to overcome certain credit issues because they just haven't had the experience. If you're self-employed, you want to seek out a lender that specializes in self-employed borrowers. So do your homework in terms of reputable lenders. And you tend to get, really good deals with the lenders. They're more specialized and they'll take their time with you. The brokers are like, boom, 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 let's go. Next. They're not going to spend the time in fixing your credit and helping you and guiding you and educating you along the way. They're all about, move quickly. But if you find a really good lender, you do your homework, the loan officer's experience, kind of ask the questions. Say, okay, have you done a lot of first-time home buyers? Do you specialize in helping first-time home buyers with credit and things like that? And get to know the person. And don't be afraid to let them know, because you're really just talking to someone who wants to get your business. So at the end of the day, you have to put down all the barriers and all the fear and just be vulnerable and be open. The more open you are with your loan officer, the better the outcome. You start holding information and it's a nightmare. Just let them know. The more they know, the more they can help you with.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody, and that's with any professional that you work with, right? We have seen it all. I
Mhm.
know this is something that I work on a lot with my students. It's mindset, getting rid of the shame, getting rid of the guilt, right?
Yeah,
We literally have seen it all, especially if you're
yeah,
working with professionals like ourselves who have the experience. We've seen everything. And so the more you tell us, the more we're able to help you. It's not like, oh my God, look at her.
right.
She is. None of that is going through our mind because it is our job to help you. And so it's
Hmm.
exciting because now I get to move things around. I get you to connect you to someone like Wendy. I get to connect you with this person, and it becomes actually fun and exciting for us to help you when there's these things that are holding you back. And so I invite you to be honest with the people that you hire. And if you don't feel like you can be honest with that person, they're not the right person for you, right? That person
Right.
make you feel safe. They should make you feel seen, and they should make you feel understood. That's another thing you want to look for when you're working with
Hmm.
a professional. Absolutely.
Yep.
Awesome. We have one last question in the chat. Other than that, I don't see any more questions. So if you have any burning ones, go ahead and ask them. Wilda's in Florida, by the way, okay?
Mhm.
I really want a duplex, multi-dwelling unit. Where can I begin searching for these gems?
Okay, well, you can't do it on your own, Rhoda. You definitely need a reputable realtor, but even before you start searching and strategizing, don't start looking at properties. That's like going backwards. You must know what you're working with in terms of your credit, your down. What's that's the most important thing. Are you pre-approved? Even if you think, oh, I've got 700 credit score, I make $100,000 a year, you still need that pre-approval because no realtor is going to even entertain you and even show you properties now. People are just like, gas is expensive. I'm not putting you in my car just to drive around. No one's going to do that. All the realtors are like, if this person's not pre-approved, they don't want to talk with you. They're not going to show you anything. But once you're pre-approved, you're a valuable potential buyer. And so anything that comes on the market, there's a network within the mortgage industry. Once you have a pre-approved buyer and you're like, whoa, this file looks so good, 700 credit score, she's got money in the bank, reserves, everything looks great. You're now, as the loan officer, finding the right property for your client because they're ready, willing, and able. But when they're not, and they're just all of a sudden you get a phone call, this client just found the house today and they want a pre-approval, you're like, nope, it's going to take 2 to 3 days because everybody's file is different. I could whip out a pre-approval in 30 minutes, but I could also do one that takes 3 days, depending on the client, depending on their tax return, or if they're W-2, or if the credit is challenged, where's their money? Sometimes client takes a week to get you a pay stub, one document. So it's important if you're looking and you're serious about buying a duplex. It is so complicated in Florida because the rent roll, because you might want a duplex, but one unit is empty. Are you going to move into that unit? What's the strategy? Because the bank will use 75% of the total rental income to help you qualify. So if the property is bringing in, if the mortgage is 4,000, but the property is bringing in 3,000, we will use 75% of that rental income to help you qualify for the duplex. But you won't know that unless you speak to a lender ahead of time.
And so the first stop in your real estate journey, whether it's your first time home buyer or you're in the investing stage, is to speak with someone like Wendy. Where are you? It's the GPS, right? You tell her what you want, what's the big vision, right? And then she does her magic, right? And then she calculates the route for you, right?
Yep.
Of course, you would have already spoken to me about your money management, your overall wealth building strategy before you even make it to Wendy, okay? But the specific road to home ownership or second home ownership is to first speak to a mortgage loan officer to see where you are, what is possible for you. And if the things that you want are not possible, what do you need to do to make it possible? You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So the last thing is, how do we get in touch with you, Wendy? You got people ready to talk to you.
Okay, well, the best way to get in touch with me is through email or text message. I love text messaging because I'm on the phone all day. And so if you say, hi, this is Greg. I was at the meeting or the Zoom meeting with Tatiana, and I'd like to set up an appointment. The initial call is like 15 minutes. We will talk. I will get to know you. We build a relationship and we strategize based on your goals, not what I want for you, but what's realistic, what you're looking to do. And you can reach me at 954-790-4206. That's my cell. You can also email me at Etienne, Etienne, at loandepot.com. And I wish I could share my and they could text me and I could send them a link also that will have my direct information. If they text me, hi, and then I'll shoot them my a link that they will have automatic access. My God, I had turned off the light, but now I want the light back on. Yeah, and I could also share if they want information on Florida down payment assistance programs, text me their email address and I will email you the Hometown Heroes. This is coming out in July. So if you need this money, Hometown Heroes, and you don't have to be a hero to get the money. Everyone's eligible in the state of Florida, no matter, even if you're self-employed. It used to be for heroes such as firefighters, nurses back in 2020 when it first came out. But now they've extended it to everyone in the state of Florida. There are some income guidelines I can email them. The down payment assistant directly from the state's website, Broward County Housing Down Payment Assistant in the different cities that have money, as well as the Miami-Dade program. So there's 3 different ones, maybe even 4, that has money. But it's about getting ready. Like, don't find a house and call me for down payment. I will pull my hair out. Like, you have to talk first, qualify, and then go searching, go shopping for the home. So we have to talk first. But it's all about planning. I'm very flexible. A lot of times I work until 8:30 at night, by appointment, of course. You know, if I get a text, hey, you know, what day best works for you, then I'm able to squeeze you in. We set a 15-minute initial appointment, and then it could go on to the next, you know. But have your questions ready. If we're gonna do a 15-minute one-on-one, have some questions ready. And yeah, we'll take it, you know, whether you're a first-time home buyer or a repeat investor. And then non-Florida residents interested in real estate. If you're interested in Florida real estate, yes, you can reach out to me. But if you're buying real estate in another city or in another state like New York, Texas, those states, no. I am working on New York license and Texas as well, but it's just a little time consuming, and I'm so bombarded in Florida that I'm not prioritizing the other states yet. But if they're buying in Florida, yes. Does the program allow for the non-residents to qualify? No. Down payment assistance is for the state of Florida. Property must be in Florida. If you have a child that lives in Florida, going to school in Florida, yes, they're eligible. Your parents want to move to Florida and retire, yes, they're eligible.
Right. I think there's a little bit of confusion about the residency. I think there's a confusion between I live currently in another state. Can I strategize and with you and buy a property in Florida, even though I currently live in another state? Is that what it?
Yes.
For that? Okay. So
Yes.
yeah. So those of you who are interested, because remember, you don't have to live in a place to invest in it. And hint, right? Just like I tell my international investors, you don't have to live in a country to invest in it. And hint, right? So if you are interested in investing in Florida, whether it's to buy a home for your child, to buy a home for your parents, or to just invest in Florida, Wendy is your girl. Okay, she is your mortgage loan officer. So go ahead and just text her right now so you don't forget. Everybody on the call, your net worth is your net worth. You may not be able to work with Wendy right now, but guess what? You never know what the future may hold. And so you have this connection. She is vetted. She has worked with me. She has worked with some of my people. All right. She's going to be working with a lot of my people. Okay. All right. And so we want to have that relationship solidified. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're already in Florida, it's already a no-brainer. Again, you don't need to go all the way and buy a whole house with Wendy. That's not what this is all about. This is
No.
helping you get out of your own way, helping you expand your mind, helping you to see what's possible for you specifically, not some random you, but for you specifically. Type in a 1 if that made sense, everyone. Type in a 1. All right. So that's
yeah, definitely they could do Florida. If they don't live here and they want to buy, the thing is, Florida market is really good for investors because it's a high demand for rental. So if you're looking for cash flow, this is the place.
right. Oh yeah, this is the place.
I mean, it's such high demand that people are renting rooms for $1,500. Efficiencies. So I'm gonna turn on the light real quick. I feel like I'm in the dark. Hold on one second.
Well, no problem. All right, everyone. Any last burning questions before we wrap things up? Any last burning questions? I know this was a lot of information. It might be so much that you don't even know what to ask. Okay. But definitely text Wendy. Okay. I would text her right now so you don't forget.
Yeah.
And then and she will be in your Rolodex. She is now part of your network. Your network is your net worth. You may
Yeah.
not need to work with Wendy right now, but there might be one day where you're like, oh my God, I know someone in Florida. Let me call them. Or maybe someone,
Right.
hey, I have some.
Or
Yes.
they're buying in another state and they're working with another lender and they just want somebody that they feel comfortable with. Hey, Wendy, am I making the right decision? Am I doing this properly? Should I be, what can I do? This is the documents that I receive and I don't understand them. Can you take a look at it for me? No big deal. We work together. You know, you trust Katiana. She trusted me and I'm here for you. So if it's a matter of, hey, can you review this? I'm buying this property and I'm not sure what I'm signing. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're buying in another state, you do need allies. You do need to know someone else has to look at that for you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right. So I don't see any
Okay.
questions in the chat. Thank you so much, Wendy. Any last,
Thank you.
any last?
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure meeting all of you. I see some beautiful faces. Somebody, Stephanie Etienne. I don't know if we're related, but nice meeting you all. And I look forward to speaking to each and every one of you. You know, just reach out anytime, any questions. And then Katiana and I will piggyback and make sure that, you know, we're all on the same page with what your goals are. All right.
Yes. Thank you so much. Enjoy your
Thank you,
vacation.
Katiana. Thank you for having me.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right, guys.
Wow.
Bye. We're off to dinner now.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you soon. All my private Wealth Circle members, we will debrief this on our next call. All right. And everybody else, I hope to see you soon. Bye. Don't be a stranger.